Okay, it's time for another quick PI video. This one we're going to set up the factory planet. So we made all of the extractor planets in the previous video, and now we are sending all of those materials to our factory tune, or whichever one has a free planet or so, and we are going to set up a factory. This is, in the end, what it's going to generally look like. It's going to be slightly different based on what T4 material you are making. In this case, I'm going to be making recursive computing modules, which takes 3 types of the tier 3 to make. So you will need more or less extractors around if you choose a different one. Nano factories take a little bit less. They take about 10, I think, and then like wetware mainframes, that sort of thing, takes about 16. You have room for about 17 extractors beyond the advanced one. If you build things in a honeycomb like this, if you spread them out and you spend too much of your planet resources on links because they're too far, you may run out of availability. But in general, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to build one here today and route it all around. The easiest way I found to do it without making yourself go crazy trying to figure out all of the numbers and divisions that need to get sent where. And all right, let's get straight to it. So I'm actually going to log this tune off because this one already has them on, and we're going to build them on my main. As always, you're going to undock and basically just stop your ship. Make sure you don't slowly float into oblivion while you are staring at planets for like 20 minutes as you set this up. So we will do that. And we will get to it. I'm just going to leave those there. I'm only going to be building one today anyways, so let's just look at the planets. One thing you're going to want to remember is that planets can only be built on barren and or temperate. T4 material factories can only be built on barren or temperate planets. So I've got one of each. I'm going to build 2 probably. Since all of your expensive stuff is going to come to and from this planet, it is ideal to pick the planet that happens to be closest to the biggest and most defensible thing in the system. In my case, it is near Planet 3, and Planet 3 just so happens to be a barren and or temperate one, so I'm going to build there. So it's just less time for me to be in warp and that sort of thing, less time for me to be on field, warping to and fro places. Less time for me to be in warp while people can see that there's an alphabetize flying around with a lot of goodies in it, or a Vider or what have you. So that aside, I'll let us get set on building. So it doesn't matter at all what is built around. If you ask me, it might be nice to your local buddies to pick whatever the most profitable thing is and see where they aren't, because it is possible that they might be looking for command centers to build away from, and since you're not going to be mining any resources, they may not be very adept, and they might say, oh, someone's got stuff in that area, I'm going to build somewhere else. So it's not really going to take anything up, but they might worry about that. So I usually try to pick a nice dead spot like this and just build here. It doesn't actually matter, and that's probably me thinking way more about it than you should, but it takes no effort, so I'm going to do it. Alright, so it doesn't really matter where this is connected to it, as always, but when you first view the planet, it centers into this, so I like to build the whole thing pretty close to it. And the strategy essentially is and this is important to get the storage quite right. The storage plays the center of everything, and as always, we're going to have 2 or more shuttles back onto the surface, 2 at very least. The way we're going to do it is you're going to basically pipe in all of the materials, half of them in one and half of them in the other, so you take the fewest strips possible and lower your risk. This one I like to submit more often than I do in the other ones because it's a little less cookie cutter, and you want to make sure you have enough power to function everything. Let's see. I like to make it simple. I put my T4 at the left, which is the high-tech one, and a reminder, if this isn't there, it means you're building on the wrong type of planet. Setting the links down doesn't tell you, or doesn't dictate what things get moved to or from. That's later. So at this point, like I mentioned before, I'm going to be making recursive computing modules, and this is something similar to what we did before. You want to back out and go back into your planet after you've built after you've built them and hit submit. You want to back out and then look at the order that they appear in the customs office. It's not alphabetical, it's not left to right, it's linked to, I think, the ID of the planets or something, and either way you have to back out and take a look. So it's 2, 3. In this case it is alphabetical, numerical, so we can worry less about that. So I will output all of my stuff to the top one, so all the T4s are ready to go for me right here. I don't have to switch down in order to pick them up. Again, a trivial difference, but one that could potentially save you time and or your life if you are slowly gathering from the planet while someone warps in and hits you. So let's see which one that is. 2 is the first one. See, look, it's not alphabetical or left to right, so we want to be piping all of our output to this one. So let's do that. We will be creating recursive computing modules, and we will be piping them directly to here, because we've done our research. Okay, now the next thing we need is 3 sets of, well, 1 set of each of the tier 3 materials. Now you might notice that this produces, it needs 6 input units, and so keep that in mind in a moment. Let me get rid of this so it makes it a little easier to build. Now we're doing advanced. You only need 1 high tech. The rest are all advanced for the T2 or T3. T1s are what we built on the other planets, which were the basic. We're going to be doing no basics today. So in my case, I'm going to be building 3. I think it's usually 3. There are some that take only 2. In essence, everything with the exception of the T4s go and take a pit stop into the storage bin. And it's a long story, but you don't want something stuck waiting to send where it gets stuck somehow, where it's not creating. You want it to have an easy place for it to drop off so it can continue on its way, just in case something clogs up and the downstream thing gets stuck. It won't prevent you from getting the materials out. You basically do it in 2 steps. Step 1, the tier 3 drops off into the box. Step 2, the box sends stuff to the T4, not just directly from the T3 into the T4, because there will be times there at the very end of a run where you have slightly more of one thing or slightly less of one thing, and then you'll be waiting. You want it to churn out as much as it can, just in case you have 2 that are still going and one's done because it ran out of mats. You want those ones to keep making multiple extra sets and put them in here. You don't want them to put only 1 set in the T4 and then wait. You want it to continually make them, so that's the logic. So let's take a quick look at what we need. You don't really need to focus too much on the order or where you put stuff. I used to just take more time to alphabetize them and put them all in one spot, but you're never going to realistically ever have to come in and make edits to this because it's hands-off once you create it. So long as it works, it doesn't matter. And just tightly pack them into a honeycomb, and that's all that matters. So we'll just go in order. Synthetic synapses. So all the T3s are at the bottom. And we will route them, as I mentioned, into the box. Next we need transcranial microcontrollers, whatever. And lastly, we need guidance systems into the box and submit. Now we go grab each one of those that we've just made, and we create a route from the box into the tier 4. I'll do it one time a little slower. You're basically just creating a route. You can kind of see it getting piped there. And then because now it's being fed all 3 that it needs, it turns completely yellow. There's nothing we need to do anymore with this T4. It's getting sent to the output, which is one of the rocket stations, and it has all 3 inputs it needs. Now our T3s are now suddenly complaining at us. Each one of these is going to need 2 of itself. So we're going to need to make at least 2 for inputs. One that's creating super tensile plastics, for example, and the other creating test cultures. What I've figured out is that if you pay attention to how much it actually needs in terms of the units, this T4 will actually consume enough materials to necessitate 2 of each of these T3s. So if we had as much power as we could, we would want 2 of these things creating synthetic synapses to keep it optimal. However, the problem is we have a finite number of things we can make. I kind of mentioned before there's a limit. Even with nanofactories, you can't fully optimize it and have it set that way. So this thing is going to basically sit idle for at least half the time, but there's not really a better way to do it. I've split it up before where I've done my T1 to T2 to T3 on other planets and then just had like just one planet doing maybe 2 to 4, and it's no better. It's better to just have 2 planets of a copy and paste of what we're going to make today that just churns them out. There's not really a better way to do it. Even nanofactories take, I think, 10, and you would need 20. And as I mentioned before, the maximum of these that you'll have power for is around 17. Now, it's probably possible that it might be different if you have all T5 skills and all of this stuff, but I really don't think so because a lot of my mining or PI alts have pretty much max skills in PI, and they aren't able to do it. So most of the time you're going to be way under the power you're going to need, but it could be possible that if you have like max skills and nanofactories that you could do it in one planet, but I really don't think so. And most of the time you're not going to want to do nanofactories anyways because they're kind of annoying to build and they're not as profitable. But okay, so we are done with the T3s. Now we're going to continue on, and we are just going to build a whole bunch of the rest of these. We need 2 of each of these 2, so 4 per each one of these T3s, which is 12. So we're going to build 12 more of these guys. I usually start building from the inside. It's more likely you're going to get enough space to build everything you need. If you build from the edge and you slowly lose some pixels here or there, it's going to be wrong by the time you're at the other side. So that's 9. And you can make a nice honeycomb with 12 here. And just as a reminder, the maximum distance you can send things is 5 hops. You'll notice that the diameter of this is 4 hops actually. Like starting from here, it's only possible to go 1, 2, 3, 4, so long as you're not making it go tremendously out of the way. Which is why you'll see I basically use that box as the hub, not only because of the reasons I mentioned before, how it's important to not get things bottlenecked, but if you make the center of the whole sending somewhere in the middle, it's pretty much impossible for something to take more hops than that. If you ever have some issue where it's complaining that it can't send something, that's why. You'll notice that now I'm getting closer to being full. As I mentioned, I can fit a couple more. I recommend if you're building something that's taking more, build one at a time beyond this point, because it's going to take a little bit of mats to place the factory down and a little bit of power to connect it. So you may be able to build, let's say, 8 of these things, and you think, wow, I've got it, and you're going to hit submit. You waste 3 million ISK, and then you can't connect them. You got to delete them. It's not that big of a deal, but 3 million ISK times multiple tunes and multiple planets, it can add up a little bit. It's an easy thing to do. Just submit slowly. Okay, so same thing as before. We're going to make 2 of each of these, so we need super tensile plastics. So let's do that. Oh, they're up here. Remember, they always go into the bin. We're going to make 2 of them. And we need test cultures. Okay, so that one's done. Now we need bile cells and nanites. So we'll do 2 bile cells. never figure out the best way to do this, so I'll remember. That's okay. And then lastly, we need water-cooled CPUs and transmitters. Everything goes into the box. The cool part about sending it into the box too is if you really do make a mistake and never notice, it will be only running slower, not broken. In the sense that at least some of the stuff is going to make it in here, even if you mess up and put it somewhere else. Although it usually is pretty obvious if that's the case, because something will stay red for some reason. Okay, so we have everything. All of the T2s are now being made, and they're all sitting in here. Now we have to do the same step as before, and then send everything from this box into the appropriate T3 that needs it. So let's see, we need to send plastics and test cultures up here, so let's do that. I'm gonna make this a little bigger so you can see you're looking for the incoming one. It says 5 and 5 here because we're sending 5. When we hit create, you'll notice it. I think once we select where it's going, it knows it needs 10, so it moves it to 10. You don't really have to do it manually. And what did I say? Test cultures. Yeah, and you'll know if it's the right ones because it'll either yell at you that it says that that place doesn't need that, or it won't turn yellow. So we can hit submit for that one. Okay, biocells and nanites. And lastly, same as before, water-cooled CPUs and transmitters. What did I mess up? Alright, well you're going to see some diagnosing then. It's pretty easy to make a mistake. Oh, I did transmitters twice. That's fine. Yeah, if you really wanted to look, you could go into here, and at the end you should see everything coming to and from here. You know, it's not really a good way to organize it, but you can see all of the T3s that are heading out into the appropriate places. Maybe I'll maximize this at the end. I don't know, I've never really looked at it this way. You can kind of tell when something's wrong, because like there when I hit submit it stayed red, and then you can just go look, oh it did one twice. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, so the last step then is to take materials from the launch pads and send them out here. Now for this you actually need the materials in there in order to select them. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. We've hit submit for sure, and now we can head back in here and go send a load of materials out to the actual place. So we'll do that now. I've actually pre-sent out some materials from my other planets. They weren't even completely done with the 2-day cycle, but I have enough to get it working. Now, the way to save yourself from going crazy and doing this is because in our case we have basically I think it was 12 different things, and you can see here, I mean this one is basically it's the input for 2 things, but we have 12 different materials in total to take out here. We have 6 here in the epithal, and then I have another, okay, these ones are doubles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 materials for the second half, 12 total, because of just the number of materials this one particularly needs. So what we're going to do is put them in alphabetical order, and I've already done this. You'll notice this. These are the lower alphabetical ones, and these are the higher ones. And you put one of them in one launchpad and the other set in the other launchpad. Don't organize them by where they go on there, because after today and you're done building this, you're not going to give a shit. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is when you're sitting in here, with a pile of resources like this, because you just got done sending it all over here, you're gonna just go in and grab basically the first 6. And that's the easiest way to remember. That way you don't have to remember, you don't have to write it down, you don't need an Excel sheet. You've already done your homework in the right way, and you're gonna just take the first 6. Trust me, I've done it the other way before, and it's not better. It's better to take a little bit more time to be anal about it now to get it set up properly, so that way you can forget it later and not have to worry. So now we are going to go drop these off. I could have just clicked here and hit warp 2, by the way, just old habits. So now there's a lot more space on the command office or whatever it's called and than there are on the launchpads. I'm just going to dump them in there now. I haven't done the math for how much it'll actually consume yet. Doesn't really tend to matter. The way the math works out, you just throw stuff in and then just pile it on later. But either way, for now, so long as I can put in a little bit of each thing, just so that way there's something in there, that's all we need. Yeah, way too much. I'm just going to do 5,000 of each, just to get it going. This might be a slightly boring part of the video, because I've got to do this a couple times. Everyone knows that PI is not the most exciting part of Eve. I'm actually going to give a little bit more bacteria because there's 2 sets of that one. And you'll notice here that I haven't basically completely run out here. And over here, shoot, I should have done a little less. It ends up being like 4,770 each is how much can fit in the Launchpad itself. Maybe it's 8,770, I really can't remember. But the idea is there's a magic number of 6 different materials divided by 10K. I'm just going to round it and make it simple. You can even copy the numbers in here and just do it real fast. I'm shift-click dragging. Realistically, what you're going to want to do, and I didn't do this here, I kind of did it badly, and I'm not even watching local. Very, very dumb. But the idea is, I'm going to take these actually. You would have things already broken up by how much this is sitting in your cargo, even if there's 2 stacks. Like maybe you're going to completely fill up the Launchpad and then the customs office. You will have them already broken up into 2 stacks. You'll drop in the 1 stack that goes to the Launchpad and then move it over, hit transfer, and then quickly drop the other ones in. You're carrying up to half a bill of stuff sometimes. Maybe not in these sets. Maybe that's more like 50 mil. But if they kill 50 mil worth of stuff, that's 2 days of equity in making your T4s that die. So it could be quite a lot. You want to be on and off field as fast as you can. So okay, I can take these and drop these back into my item hanger, and because I'm doing things alphabetically, I know that I just need these ones. So let's just take the right numbers this time. PI is all about efficiency. The gameplay is, well, there isn't any. It's about making it as hands-off as possible and leaving it and doing more fun stuff and having this make you money in the meantime. Because you can make these factory planets about 100 ways. But it's important to do them quickly. Yeah, look how quick that warp is. We're basically barely going to be on field because this is what we're going to do. We're going to do something like this. As soon as your warp drops, you just drop in your stuff and you leave. Boom, you're off field. Similar to some other things like Workwing, if you can just drop your stuff, even if you're getting shot at, like all they're gonna do is get your ship, and your ship's worth like 10 mil. It doesn't matter. Epithel is not a cheap ship, or not an expensive ship. Even the dumb skins are like 1 mil. I have mine fit to try to avoid getting webbed and stuff, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter. I've died every time I've ever been hit. You can cheap fit these if you want to. Just get a booster on them and just pray, because you're paper thin anyways. You have like no hit points. Your evasion is being off field instantly, and that's it. So I'm actually gonna undock and then I'll finish building. I just wanted to get back with inside our safety radius because I am bad and have not made a safety warp, which is a good idea, by the way, because you can and will get bumped out. I've had that happen before because you are long and terrible at moving, and they can just punt you for like 10 minutes until they shoot you, which I felt wasn't even worth it because I'm only worth 5 mil, but you know what? People are bored, and they do that. Right, so we're going to finish this now. Okay. So now we can see that all of our stuff is sitting in here, and we've alphabetized them because we are crazy people that are doing PI that way. And we are going to basically go around and deliver these directly into each of these that are required. Because there's 2 of them, and there's not really a way to send directly into a box in a way that's good, you would fill up the box, which would kill all the rest of the circuitry. It's fine to just send them directly from here. Okay, so we need oxygen and biomass. They both come from the first box, so we're going to send that over. And that one should turn yellow. And basically, I like to do these in 100 submits because the amount of times that I've done like 6 of them in a row and then made a mistake, it's much easier to just hit cancel and redo that step than it is to try to hunt for what you did wrong. Same goes for up here. I could have just hit cancel when I made that mistake earlier. Again, oxygen and biomass. This is tedious but necessary. Bacteria and water. Make sure you grab the outgoing from the storage tab. And water's over in this one. Go grab some water. And then it should turn. Biofuels and precious minerals. It's one of each again. I think if you try to put it to the wrong one, it won't even let you. It's pretty foolproof at this point. The only thing that's not foolproof is sending 2 to the same one and none to the other, and then that one will never have an input. But then by the end it should stay red and you should still find out. Realistically, the only important main takeaway from this video is the organization of how to build this, as in just the quick method of making this honeycomb. I've seen, just if you look at other planets, people spread things out and they don't put them in the most efficient way possible, and they spend a lot of energy on the wasted power on these things here, which will reduce the number of these you can make, and everything like that will reduce the amount of money you make. So you don't want to do that and you want to avoid it. And see, because we've alphabetized them, we already know just without looking which ones our things are in. lastly but not leastly, water and reactive metals. And with that, our factory planet is set up. We can see that the ones that I just submitted, have just started. The ones that I did at the very beginning are already chugging along. You can see that here. When these are done, we can actually see what each one of them looks like as we click on them. So let's take a look at this T1 here. We can see that it's getting, you can see the line coming from the spaceport. I can't point to it, otherwise it highlights a bunch of other stuff. It highlights everything that place is doing. But with this highlighted, you can see the materials coming in and out, and then it sends them back into the storage box. There's not really a reason to check any of these. The only problem you'll ever have is if you make your links in the improper way, it will take more than 5 hops. This is at the maximum right here. This one to here is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It costs you nothing to take extra hops. If you somehow manage to get some sort of error when it's complaining with the links, you can upgrade these. Don't do that unless you need to. It doesn't improve the speed or anything like that. It just allows more to go over it. Generally, you're not going to approach that maximum. I think with this design, I'm maxing out on this one here at 37%. You can add another line here, but I really don't think it does anything. It's better to do fewer lines just in case you need the extra power to make more facilities. But that's basically it. So you're going to come off, you basically take out 2, maybe 4 loads of stuff out here. You drop off the materials about, it's like 4770 into 4770 is 1 out of 6 that can fit inside it, and then it's like 8770 or something like that of a double. And you just throw everything in here, you do it really fast, get off grid, you come back, you fill up the other one, and that's it. The only other thing you're going to want to do is make sure you grab all the T4 that has been made since the last time and transfer it quickly before you drop off, otherwise you're not going to have enough room. And you have to do that in 2 separate transfers because it just doesn't know what's in there. It'll make you do it too. But that's pretty much it. With this, you'll have all of your mats sitting back in the Fortizar in the system, and then the next step would be to take a Vider or a jump freighter or something like that and send it somewhere useful and go sell it. But yeah, if you have any questions, post them below. Thanks.